What's going on? My name is Joker. I'm going to be doing a brief analysis of TSM versus C9. This is week 6 of the NALCS. Previous history between these two: TSM picked up the victory in week 3, over Cloud9, using mostly double lift solution and Bjergsen's Victor to full effect. Jensen did pull out the quirky mid against Bjergsen's Victor, but didn't fare decently well in the sense of it all. Went 2-2-0, but didn't quite have a big effect. Sneaky played on the Tristana. Went 1-2-1, didn't quite do so well. They did have balls on Tom Kench in the top lane. He went 0-4-2, so C9 struggled a bit in this game, but really in week 3. But Bjergsen double lift really provided a lot of damage. Yellow Star on his Janna pick went 0-12. So 12 out of the 13 kills for Yellow Star. He was right on top of everything. So was double lift as well at the 7, 1, and 5. So, the bot lane there really synergizing well for TSM in week 3. We'll flash forward to week 6 right now. As you can see on the screen, TSM 7-3, Cloud9 6-4. So these are pretty big games for both of these two teams. They want to try to fight for position here in the LCS. We're going to go ahead and I will lower that just a little bit. We'll keep it on, but not quite a whole lot. Running through the picks and bans real quick. As you may already know, may or may not, TSM banned out Nidalee, Orianna, and Malphite. Cloud9 banning out Lulu, Fiora, and Lissandra. Here will be their last ban. For TSM, I like their ban phase. Going back through Cloud9's their last week here, week 5, Jensen went just all out crazy on that Orianna. That's why they banned it away. Rush has a very strong Nidalee. We know that he does like to play it a lot, likes those pressure style jungles where he can quick clear his own jungle and then get into the enemy jungle to provide pressure, provide vision. And the Malphite as well, another strong ban. And Cloud9 banning away the Lulu, which nowadays, especially with the Kog'Maw that was first picked, you usually want to ban it away and don't give them that chance. The Fiora Haunster's played very strong on it. It's one of his top champions here in this year. And the Lissandra is it's almost a throwaway ban, but not quite, because Bjergsen and Haunster, to an extent, can play it. Bjergsen has played pretty well on the Lissandra. With that first ban, though, TSM immediately pick up the Kog'Maw because it is open. They hovered over the Morgana, decided not to go for it, and they go with the Kog'Maw because he is open. It is the first pick here for the NALCS. They were a bit behind the times for the Kog'Maw picks and bans, but here in the patch 6.3, Kog'Maw is a very, very strong pick. So they really want it, and you know that they're going to build a comp around it, which is why then Cloud9 go ahead and pick up the Gangplank, and they pick up the Kalista. Kalista being a contested pick, and now that you know that there's what the ADC is for TSM, you could pick the other strong ADC, one of the other strong ADCs, which happens to be Kalista at this point. And knowing that they have a mobile ADC on TSM, Balls actually decides to Sneaky picks up the Kalista, being able to throw his support, throw high into the mix, right onto Haunster, or right onto double lift, as much as you can. I'm getting thrown off by this. So TSM then go on to pick up the remaining member of their bot lane in the Braum. They also pick up Gragas for Sven. Svenskeren has played very well on this Gragas, and it is a good pick with a Kog'Maw because he does provide a lot of peel potential and a lot of disengage with the casks, with the body slam. Same thing with the Braum. Can help prevent a lot of the damage coming in with that unbreakable shield. Can also disengage the fight fairly well. And the Kog'Maw Braum bot lane is actually really absurdly strong, because as soon as Braum lands a Q, lands an auto attack, as long as that Kog'Maw W is up, he can instantly stun the member of the opposing team. So again, a very strong bot lane. It provides a lot of a lot of defense potential here for Double Lift, who's going to get focused down. Cloud9 then pick up their jungle and their support. The Soraka we've seen to start come into play a lot more, providing these teams that don't have a lot of tanky members tank ability, so to speak, because of the appearance of her heals and the fact that she can heal very often, along with that high-powered wish that can heal across the team. It's also very good for having her W where she can silence and root somebody. I believe actually that might be her E. Excuse me. Being able to silence and root enemy members of the opposing team, and especially with an immobile Kog'Maw, that is a great pick for High to play. Basically giving him and Sneaky pretty much a free lane, because he'll be able to heal just about any damage that comes in. And once you get into the mid-late game team fights, the positioning of that silence is going to be crucial for Cloud9. They also pick up Lee Sin for Rush. Again, another high-pressure style jungle for Rush, who loves to be aggressive, loves to invade, and loves to make the map his own early on. And it's really working pretty well for Cloud9. He doesn't require a whole lot of resources behind him, but he can still jump into the fights and initiate and make things happen. The last two picks here for TSM were the LeBlanc and the Poppy for Hauntzer. LeBlanc for Bjergsen picks it blind, but knowing that one of the main counter picks, so to speak, in the Lissandra was banned away, Bjergsen feels comfortable in picking up a second damage source here for TSM, seeing as how at that point they did have their front line very well secured in the Gragas and in the Braum. So Bjergsen being able to pick up more damage for TSM, which is very crucial, because you don't want to have a team comp that has only one source of damage. We'll go ahead and go back and finish and take a look at that last screen here for a second. While I finish this up, Hauntzer picks up his Poppy. Poppy and Fiora for him have been two of the strongest picks that he has seen, that he has played on. He does very well on tanky, damagey, the bruisery champions, so to speak. Not quite juggernauts, but they still want to. They still build a bit tanky, or they build tanky with a bit of offense in them. Poppy mostly with the Iceborne Gauntlet. Fiora can build Ravenous Hydra into the Titanic Hydra and then still go damage, or can go a little tanky, depending on what the team needs. So I like that pickup because he's played very well on it, and it rounds out the composition pretty well. They get a good amount of engage, good amount of disengage. The Steadfast Presence can actually stop Rush from trying to come in and try to sneak in and maybe insect kick, double lift back. Can also stop Sneaky's hops if he's trying to get close enough on the Callista. I can also stop the Fate's Call, the secondary Fate's Call early, instead of being able to knock up a bunch of the members of the team. He stops them right there. The final pick for Cloud9 is going to be Twisted Fate for Jensen, and I really do like this pick because, again, it brings more lockdown, more single target CC to try to get to the back line. Be able to Destiny Gate yourself into the back, be able to gold card double lift, trying to provide more lockdown pressure, because you know that double lift and Bjergsen are going to be the only damage dealers. So as soon as you can get past this back line, and they have multiple ways to do it. You've got the barrels from Gangplank, you've got Rush who can go in and ward hop, and then Insect Kick can also flash Dragon Rage Kick. Jensen will be able to teleport Destiny Gate himself to the back line. There's multiple ways for Cloud9 to be able to really engage onto double lift and have the positioning and the lockdown to take him out of the fight. Once he's out of the fight, if Bjergsen's already run through his rotation, he's out of the fight for another good 7-8 seconds, and that's more than enough time for Cloud9 to dish the damage out that they have on this kit in their team comp. So TSM have a very good have a pretty good protect the Kog'Maw comp with that extra bit of damage, but it's more protect in the sense of peel and displace, disengage, and kite back and fight, as opposed to, the Lulu Janna shield and heal you all day and let you run wild. This is more of a, we're going to pick our fights, and if the fight that we don't want, if you're trying to give it to us, we're going to make sure that you don't. Whereas Cloud9, they're all about getting onto the back line and trying to dive the Kog'Maw, making sure that he can't get aggressive, and keeping Bjergsen off on the side. Even if he does get a flank, if nobody else can dish out that damage, he runs through his rotations and he's out. So they know that they can still dish that damage onto double lift as long as I can get back to him. And it's going to be very tough for Bjergsen to get all of his spell rotation damage out because of the Soraka. I would have liked to have seen something different out of Bjergsen, maybe not the assassin, or maybe not the LeBlanc. If they didn't ban Orianna, I'd say Orianna would have been a very solid pick. Victor also would have been a very good pick here, providing more wave clear, a safer wave clear, where you don't have to put yourself in position to dive in, where you can just immediately get silenced and you can't get back out. Also, still can provide a bit of peel, with the slows, with the stuns, and still provides quite a lot of damage and scales up very well into the mid-late game. But for TSM, it's not a bad composition. It's a single focus composition. Lots of peel, lots of protect. Try to force a fight to go your way, kite back, make them come to you, and then let Double Lift deal the damage. And Cloud9 wants to go to you. With the Rush pick, with the Lee Sin, with the Twisted Fate, they want to get to the back line and then try to kick out a single target, stun a single target. That way, the barrel chains from balls and Sneaky can Fates call in high and immediately lock down those targets. They've got a lot of single target and a decent amount of AoE lockdown and crowd control. So it's Cloud9 going to want to 5v5. And TSM will want to 5v5, but in a bit of a different way. TSM want to find that flank with Bjergsen. Cloud9 just kind of want to go right at it and let Jensen make the flank happen. Instead of trying to sneak around to the sides, Jensen can just hang out to the back, throw some wild cards out, throw his destiny down, see where everybody is, and counter that Bjergsen flank because he can see him. So all in all, Cloud9 has a very strong draft. They've got to be very happy with it. TSM, they can be happy with it if they play it properly. It's a very interesting pick. We'll go ahead and run this through now because we are close to the end of picks and ban phase. It's a very interesting pick with the LeBlanc in the side. Again, could have gone with a couple different ways. Could have gone with the Victor with the safer wave clear. Maybe could have gone with that Ari with a bit of safer wave clear again as well. So just a few different things that they could have done differently, but TSM decides that they want to put the game on Double Lift and on Bjergsen instead of try to have them do the damage instead of maybe having a split push option or somebody that another champion that can come in and deal damage. So a couple other picks were open. The Rek'Sai jungle was open, although we haven't seen a whole lot of Rek'Sai here recently. But it's not a bad pick. If I had to pick a clear winner, I probably would end up picking C9 because of the way that their comp works and trying to lock down and focus down the individual members of TSM who are doing the damage. So float through and see the banners. Looking for this game, we can see a lot of potential for 4-1s or 1-3-1 split push opportunities. Both teams will probably want to could go with the 1-3-1, but balls would probably be better served with the team in a 4-1 split push. Because the AoE damage he can do with those barrels is just it's outstanding to help prevent to just keep pushing, onto the three members of TSM. the 1-3-1 for TSM might work. You put Hanser in a side lane, you put Bjergsen in a side lane. Although Bjergsen doesn't have teleport, he did go for the lane presence ignite. So that's not going to be quite as effective. They still could again go with the 4-1 and leave Hanser in a side lane with the teleport. Thanks to the hammer, his Poppy's Q now doing full damage to minions. It's a faster wave push, and it's a bit of a better wave clear for Poppy. So giving that option to Hanser is going to be good. And obviously for Cloud9, you have a Twisted Fate who can be just about anywhere on the map. So you can throw him in a side lane. He can wave clear very easily with red cards and wild cards, and then immediately Destiny himself back into the fight. So Cloud9 wouldn't have anything to worry about. And again, Balls can split push if he wants on the Gangplank. He does have, again, a lot of wave clear and a lot of potential to get himself get the waves pushing up, and then he can teleport back into the fight. But he also does have the global ultimate with the cannon barrage to be able to help out in the 3v3s, the 4v4s, 3v4s, whatever the case may be. He can turn this around. Now here's a trade in the bottom lane that starts to go in favor of Cloud9. Double Lift puts down the damage onto Sneaky, but High, again, just continuing to heal him up. But it is chunking High out of his own life as well. But Yellowstar takes a huge rend from Sneaky and forces him away. Meanwhile, Double Lift hasn't hit level 2. Bjergsen goes for a nice trade onto Jensen, but actually forcing Jensen to use his biscuits, so he is out of regen. Now you will see very often that Hanser gets zoned away. We're going to pause this while we talk about this. Hanser gets zoned away from any kind of wave, any kind of CS potential in the top lane against the Gangplank because of these barrels. Balls will keep one barrel, and I will give me just a second. I can pull it up. Hanser has these barrels just zoned in his own minion wave. So what he'll be able to do is he throws a barrel down here and then just waits, and that forces Hanser to have to play safely while Balls is slowly farming, and it's going to end up being a slow push, but not by much. Balls is just going to be able to farm himself happily with his own auto attacks. If Hanser tries to get in close, he throws down a parley, and we can already see that Hanser is down in life. He's already been thrown down half life because of a couple autos and a Q from Balls, and all of a sudden Hanser can't farm because he took a bad trade. And you will see that Balls will get himself quite further ahead in CS. He's already got a 5 CS lead, but again, the barrel positioning and then poking Hanser out with Qs is just going to be very crucial for how this top lane will play out. Back to the bot lane, as we did see a bit. This is a decent trade here for TSM. They are able to get Sneaky down very low, but again, you've got the Soraka who's just going to continue to provide heals for Sneaky, so he's not really worried about it. What TSM need to be doing is they need to be trading onto the Soraka. Force her to either have to recall or just stay away, because all she has to do right now is just all High has to do is just let Sneaky farm up. Because of the ancient coin, High is going to be gaining health back as Sneaky gets kills onto minions. As Sneaky CS's, High just will gain himself life back, and then can also use the Star Call to try to zone away the slow double lift away from CS and get health back. So what TSM should be doing is Yellowstar should be throwing down Winter's Bite onto High, and then Double Lift needs to follow up immediately with a bit of damage, try to get a stun onto High, and force it that way, because outside of that, you're not going to be able to get a whole lot of damage that will stay onto any of the members of the bot lane because of the heals that High can provide to Sneaky. Now, as we see, Hanser is easily, or Hansers gets pushed under turret, and Ball's just easily going to be able to force that. And force him back. Now here's what happens. Yellow Star flashes in, Double Lift flashes in. They do end up getting first blood onto Double Lift by focusing down high. Sneaky gets caught and goes down to about half health. But in this play, it costs so many summoners. Yellow Star. So let's see. Bjergsen's flash or Sven's flash. Double Lift's flash. Yellow Star has to flash and exhaust in order to get this kill. Now it does cost, again, the flash, exhaust, heal, and flash of the C9 bot lane as well. But you're trading 3 flashes for 2 and a kill. For first blood, onto your AD carry who needs to get ahead because of the item pathing for Kog'Maw that he wants. It's a decent trade, but now TSM know that they have to play safe, because if Rush makes his way to the bottom lane, they could be screwed. Simply because Double Lift doesn't have flash, and he's not going to have a reliable escape if Rush tries to come in and gank the bottom lane. In the mid lane, Bjergsen gets a decent trade onto Jensen, avoids the wild cards, and again, the early pressure from the LeBlanc can set the tone for this lane, but you don't pick Twisted Fate for the lane matchup. You pick him because you're trying to be unselfish and help your team either get ahead in the side lanes or help them in the late game by making the picks. And so Jensen just knows he just has to stay safe, farm up, let his passive do the work. Rush comes in to help clear the wave. It's not an actual gank, but he's helping to come push the wave into the turret because Jensen needs to recall. And he has almost no more health sustain. Bjergsen does try to go in and gets a good trade, but again, Rush just coming in, pushing the wave back in, allowing Jensen to back off and try to recall. It's a nice play from Rush because Jensen needs to get something behind him. He needs to get back, get some more sustain. Hanser finally finds a way to make balls pay for all the aggression. We'll pause this for the Keystone Masteries. Fairly standard all across all 10 players. Grasp of the Undying in the top laners. That's just going to be a fairly standard top lane Keystone because you're going to be able to gain so much health back. Balls will be able to gain a lot more back than Hanser at the beginning because he can easily parlay, and because parlay applies on hit effects as if it was a melee attack, Balls is going to be able to gain a lot more health back early on. Now once Hanser starts stacking up life, he will be able to gain more back because you gain more from Grasp of the Undying as you have more health. So it's kind of a Balls gets ahead early with the life, but then Hanser will be able to gain more later on. But early on is what you really want it for, and Balls using it very well. Both junglers taking Strength of the Ages as well. That's 800 gold, 800 gold's worth of efficiency in a Keystone Mastery. And for the junglers, you could stack it up very quickly. It's phenomenal. Allows them to get tankier very quickly, especially because I believe Svenskeren actually does go with the doesn't go with the Cinder Hulk. He goes with the Runic Echoes. So allowing him to gain a little bit more health is going to be great for him because he needs that because he's going to have to be the frontline engage and disengage. So he needs that extra health. Both mid laners taking Thunderlords. It's a little harder for Jensen to apply it. He's going to have to he'll have to gold card, wild card auto. And that's... it won't happen as quickly as, say, Bjergsen can go in, distort, ulti distort, and then throw down a chain, or he can throw down the Q distort, and that's 3 procs right there to get the Thunderlords. Both AD carries taking Fervor of Battle. Double Lift can stack it up very well and very easily because of his passive. Sneaky will be able to do it as well because he is more of an attack speed focused AD carry as opposed to a pure AD focused AD carry. So he'll be able to stack that up very quickly. The only difference is you've got the bond from Yellow Star, which will help prevent percentage of damage, so it's a very good frontline tank support mastery to take. And Windspeaker's Blessing coming in from high makes his heals much more effective, 10% more effective, as well as providing the people that he heals with scaling MR and armor throughout the game. So he's again effectively making his teammates tankier. Even though they don't have a true frontline tank, they have a Lee Sin, but that's about it. He's more looking to be a mobile assassin tank and engage, get the single target out, and then try to tank all the CC outside of that. High is in essence making his team a tank by spreading out the heals, using the wish, and giving MR and armor to his team. Otherwise, these are fairly standard Keystone Masters that you'll see across the board on these champions as they've picked them. Balls immediately will teleport back, and he catches again another parlay onto Hanser, and Hanser he can't do anything about it. Now here Sven is making a pretty good invade so far. He doesn't really know where Rush is, so he could get caught up. But Gragas does have quite a bit of early damage. Now Rush didn't see Sven, didn't see the ward, so we get this little bit of a tussle. Rush does end up smiting away the Raptor, so he gets the Raptor buff, but that is immediately procced by that ward that was placed by Sven, and Sven hangs out long enough that ward will stay, and Rush loses the sight buff. So a smart play from Sven. He knew that Rush couldn't really do a whole lot about it. And yes, Jensen could come in, but Bjergsen could also, again, double distort behind him and really wreck his day. Speaking of double distort, again, there's the efficiency of the LeBlanc Thunderlord's proc. Is able to distort, chain, Q, or distort, Q, chain, and all of a sudden Jensen's down to half health. So again, just making some good plays, and Bjergsen making the good early trades on the LeBlanc, as you need to do against the Twisted Fate. You need to try to keep him down. He will farm up eventually, and thanks to his passive, he'll stay relatively even with you. But the more you can force him away, the better. C9, despite being down in C9 is only down about 300 gold at this point, despite the fact that TSM got first blood, a couple of assists, and they have a CS lead in most lanes, thanks to the passive from Twisted Fate and the parlay passive. Balls and Jensen are keeping Cloud9 even in gold as a team, and that's going to be crucial because TSM they need to get the early game if they want to stay ahead. They need to try to get the early game advantage. Again, Jensen trading very well on Bjergsen, but we saw how long it takes for that Thunderlords to proc, and immediately Jensen taking the worst end of that trade. Bjergsen proccing the Thunderlords much faster and dealing much more damage, and he had better sustain because he did have more biscuits at that point. So Jensen trying to do what he can, but just couldn't. He makes the trade, but then is not able to stay ahead of it. Now at this point, Hanser is really starting to get his CS back because he was able to trade with balls and force balls away. Now here's a mid lane play that doesn't really go very far. Rush just kicks Sven back, and it hits Bjergsen, which forces that disengage because Jensen is coming around and did have that gold card procced and ready. So a good disengage, and again, that's just what we see from Rush. He loves to play these mechanically intense champions, and Lee Sin is right up his alley. He's played it very often and is very good on it, and didn't panic, just Dragon Rage kicked and was able to get himself out of that fight. Now Jensen, after that, pushes up the mid lane because Bjergsen has to roam. They pick up the Baron. They pick up the Rift Herald buff very early in 9 minutes, so it's not very early, but early on enough that Jensen is going to be able to have this Rift Herald, giving him stronger wave clear, stronger pushing potential, and giving him the ability to be able to roam more often. You push the wave up, and you let the minions, you push it back into the turret, and now you're free to go wherever the heck you want because you can dive immediately. And speaking of dive, Jensen does get caught by the ward from Haunter. Haunter placed that smart ward, but Jensen places one as well. He readies up this gold card. He goes for Sven in the back line while Haunter dives onto Balls in the front line. Wish comes out from high and heals up both Balls and Jensen, allowing them to turn back onto this fight if they so choose. The wild cards from Jensen chunk down Haunter. Jensen gets caught by the explosive cask, knocking him back into the fight and knocking Balls away from this fight. But he's still alive thanks to the wish, and then throws down the cannon barrage right onto Haunter and Svenskeren. Jensen pushing out the damage and is able to catch him with a blue card. So right there, we have a kill going over to Jensen here in this well-executed dive from Cloud9. Now, Balls is trying to keep Sven away. They don't quite see that they didn't quite see that they saw Bjergsen was coming up, but Rush was right there to defend, and because Rush is there to defend Bjergsen, Balls is able to push Sven away from Jensen. Jensen is able to gate himself back to his top turret and keep himself alive. Bjergsen sees Balls low, gets greedy, and tries to go in. He chains up Rush, but takes a huge chunk because this early game Lee Sin still has a lot of that execute damage thanks to his Q, knocks up Sven, and doesn't pick up the kill. He doesn't have quite enough damage, and Bjergsen is able to finish him up thanks to that turret shot. But right there, wildcards trap. Svenskeren gets trapped in between the wall and the turret, gets picked up by a nice wildcard placement from Jensen, is able to hit both Bjerg and Sven at the same time. He takes a turret shot, but C9 come ahead 2-for-1 in this. Jensen, again, being able to stay alive because Balls zoned away Svenskeren from trying to get into him. Jensen teleports himself back out. Balls gets himself away. Rush gets a bit too aggressive and a bit too greedy. He doesn't realize he doesn't have the damage. Even if he would pick up Tracker's Knife, he does pick up Tracker's Knife, so he doesn't have the smite bonus either, dealing the true damage. So he's not able. He gets a little too greedy, gets too aggressive, and is not able to pick up the kill, and that does go over to Bjergsen, which does help him out. But Jensen picks up 2 kills off of it. So Cloud9, with a nice, well-executed dive, get themselves ahead. TSM, they did what they could. Haunter and Sven and Bjerg did what they could, but they weren't able to really provide anything. So again, as we see, Jensen comes in, gold card prepped. Svenskeren is off on the backside. Jensen stuns up Svenskeren, even though he's body slamming it. Because he's stunned, Svenskeren can't flash body slam into Balls, who's stunned up by Haunter. If he could flash, he would have flashed over Jensen and body slammed Balls, putting down more damage onto Balls, and really quite possibly turning the fight. Svenskeren hits they get some really good chain CC. Svenskeren knocks back Jensen. Haunter knocks him up with the ultimate. But Haunter's already so low, he gets ignited and gets the blue card and gets away just in time as Bjergsen tries to come back in. Again, Rush getting a bit too greedy to try to goes in on Bjergsen, has to flash away. Dragon Rage kick, throws out the Sonic Wave, but Svenskeren is just too tanky at this point for that early damage, and also heals himself with the passive and trying to reduce the damage thanks to his W, but still ends up dying to the wild cards from Jensen, and that is exactly what Jensen needed. He's down in CS, but he's up now in kills, and his passive is still allowing him to generate that gold, so he's almost dead even. He went double Dorans instead of trying to pick up any kind of item to go towards his first item. Does pick up the blasting wand and the Negatron cloak, but otherwise, he's doing fine, and he'll be able to get his first item here very soon. Again, clearing out the waves, and after that fight, there's just not a whole lot. There's not a whole lot for them to do at this point. There's still going to be trading going on back and forth. Guinsoo's was picked up very early on thanks to that first blood for double lift, excuse me. So we'll see that make an effect here pretty soon. Rush again looking for that dive on a Hansu. Now here's where the Guinsoo's will come into effect in the Bioarcane Barrage, the Caustic Spittle, everything for double lift, really being able to chunk down and do quite a lot of damage, forcing High down to half health. Now Cloud9 is getting pushed into their turret quite often because double lift can easily proc and get the AoE damage from the Guinsoo's going thanks to his E. So all he has to do is just pop it and then just start autoing away, and he can shove Cloud9 back under their turret, which is making life difficult for Sneaky. He's going to be able to CS just fine, but it does leave TSM fairly open for a gank potential from Rush. He can easily sneak in. His Dragon Rage kick is up. His flash will be up relatively soon, so he could make his way down there if he wanted, try to kick double lift under the turret and help his bot lane out. But Svenskeren is actually coming in. This is here in the mid lane. It happens very quickly. This kill goes down so quick. What does happen? You'll see in the replay eventually. Jensen lands a nice gold card, and that opens up Rush to throw down the Sonic Wave. He throws down the point blank Sonic Wave, hits the Dragon Rage kick, follows it up with a Resonating Strike, and picks up the kill thanks to the execute damage. And they steal away blue buff as well. So it's here's the replay. So again, Jensen under turret. Bjergsen goes in to try to wave clear. Doesn't see Rush come around. Rush did not come through the river, which was warded. River Brush is warded here for TSM, but Rush actually comes through the jungle path instead of the river. Because he comes in through the jungle, Bjergsen doesn't know he's there. Double distort in to try to clear the wave. Rush is able to point blank stun him. Jensen point blank stuns him. Here we got this fight that we'll cover in a second. Point blank stun, throws down the vision as well, so they can see which one is real and which one is not. Easily able to pick up that kill. Now this dragon fight was started up by TSM's bot lane. They thought they had it for free. Hanser is going to be able to teleport himself in, but he teleports in on the minion wave way far away. There's really no wards for him to teleport to. Already, Yellow Star's chunked down below half health. High is keeping Sneaky alive. Double Lift is trying to go on Jensen, and this is not exactly the greatest idea for TSM, as you can see. Yellow Star and Svenskeren do get knocked up by the Fate's Call, and Yellow Star just immediately gets chunked out and dies to Sneaky. Svenskeren disengages the fight. Meanwhile, Balls has found himself into this match, picks up double lift with a parley. Sneaky flashes over to try to get Svenskeren. Svenskeren will keep Sneaky at bay for the time being, but here comes Rush. This is the aggression that Rush loves to do. If he even thinks he can pick up a kill, he goes for it. He ward hops over to the wolf pit, and then he will flash over the short wall, land a near point blank Sonic Wave, Resonating Strike, auto attack, picks up the easy kill on Sven, and all of a sudden, a game that was 2-2 and fairly even, almost in favor of TSM, now swings wildly in the favor of Cloud9. Cloud9, they don't go for the dragon. Rush does get bloodthirsty, goes for the kill. Cloud9 could have easily just have stayed and gone for the dragon and let Svenskeren recall back in their own jungle. But they decide to go for the kills. And that kill does give some assist gold to to all 4 members of Cloud9, but it allows Rush to get himself tankier, which they do need because they don't have a true frontline. They have High, who can provide heals, but that's about it. Once he runs low, he really can't heal as much unless he can continue to land the star call. So it's an interesting choice from Cloud9. They decide not to go with the guaranteed damage. They go with the gold for everybody. But again, TSM's bot lane, Yellowstar and Doublelift start up this dragon because they have pushed Cloud9 under turret. Jensen throws down the Destiny and sees this happening and sees Svenskeren on his way to help out. Now, the Cannon Barrage is thrown down immediately. Now, Gangplank is also teleporting himself into the back line. He's teleporting himself right here. So he's going to have a much easier path. All he has to do is just walk, and boom, he's there. Whereas, okay, that might be easier. Whereas, when the gate also comes in right here, so already you've got 2 members of Cloud9 who are easily going to be able to get on to Doublelift and Svenskeren if they need to, and they do. They immediately go on to Doublelift. But Haunster tries to teleport in, but there's no wards for TSM. So he comes in on the minion wave, and he's got a long path to come up to try to even get into this fight. It's going to take him quite a longer time to make an effect on this fight, whereas Balls immediately comes in. Jensen gold cards Doublelift, throws down the wild cards. Sneaky will pick up the rend kill. Balls, again, teleports himself, and he's closer into the fight already. Hodster teleports down to the bottom lane and then just stays with the minion wave. Instead of trying to cancel the wave and maybe push out top, he decides to push bottom. Rush, again, chases down Svenskeren, flashes over, gets the greed, picks up the kill. In something that he quite possibly could have picked up the first dragon of the game, but decides to go and pick up the kill. Does allow him to get tankier, which again, like I said, C9 will need because they don't have a true front line. They have a quasi front line in the Lee Sin, and then tank-ish ability from the Soraka and the Windspeaker's Blessing. I do like this outline that you can see now when the resonating strike hits. You've got the space that you can see if he wants to resonating strike himself back in. But this time, Rush decides he doesn't want to. He doesn't come down with the case of Lee syndrome. But TSM again. Here's the 1-3-1 that I talked about earlier on. TSM immediately know that they're behind. They need to do something around the map to force Cloud9 to play their game. So they immediately go for the 1-3-1. Doublelift, Yellowstar, Svenskeren in the mid lane. Haunter in the top lane. Does not have teleport, but TSM's not looking for a fight, especially because Cloud9 doesn't expect this 1-3-1 setup so soon, and because they don't, they still have their duo in the bot lane, which prevents Bjergsen from really pushing out. As you can see, he clears a wave and then just has to walk up through the river. He can't really do anything, but that's still providing TSM with enough time to get a huge chunk down onto this turret. The rest of Cloud9 are making their way up the river, and Bjergsen is following behind. Gets spotted out and does not follow up with it, but that is so much damage onto that mid turret. Now, this is an engage that tried. There's multiple things happening. Cloud9 tried to slow down members of TSM so they could possibly pick up a couple kills. The flash away from Yellowstar pretty much prevents that from happening. Meanwhile, Sneaky and High are 2v1ing Bjergsen, and in that river area, that was a very smart play and a good call from either High or Sneaky to say, hey, we're being followed, turn. Because they can balls through down the ultimate, they're disengaging the mid, and they're forcing the 3 members of TSM away. But we can turn and maybe try to pick one up and then force a 4v3 or a 5v3, 5v4. So they don't pick up the kill, but they force Bjergsen away long enough that the rest of the team can 4v3 in the mid lane and push down some more damage on this already pretty well damaged turret. And they get a decent amount, but they really can't follow up because they don't have the minions, unfortunately. Bjergsen will come up and make it a 4v4. Pings do go down. Bjergsen comes up in defense of the 4v4, but eventually will make his way back to the bot lane, as was the plan, but he instead goes in on Jensen. Jensen has to flash away, and the chains miss. Jensen stayed in the minion wave long enough that Bjergsen couldn't reliably hit a point blank chain, because he might have hit a minion, preventing any kind of assassination damage. But that does force Rush and Jensen to back away, so Sneaky can get a little bit of time down with this turret, and put a bit of hurting on it. But right now, no turrets go down. Bjergsen has to double distort to clear the wave away. But again, the C9 bot lane just sticking around. Sneaky doing a good job of throwing down a few autos, then rending the minions, getting the clear away, and pushing this wave in onto the solo member Bjergsen. Now again, TSM stay with the 1-3-1 instead of pushing the bot lane, pushing their own bot lane back. They decide that mid turret is more important. Doublelift has the attack speed thanks to the finished Rudons to pick up the turret, but Balls and Sneaky not only equalize, they turn it around. They pick up bot and top outers. TSM will go for this. TSM will end up going for the Rift Herald, but Cloud9 will go for the first dragon of the game. And it's a trade-off. Do you go for the game long buff, or do you go for the 2.5-3 minute long minion buff? TSM put more favor in the minion buff because they want to siege. They want to push their minions into the turret. Meanwhile, Cloud9, they just want to prevent TSMA from getting that first dragon buff, which again is 6% AD and AP. So it's not exactly a bad buff. Early on it is already providing quite a bit of stats here for Cloud9, but then it sets them up to get to the later dragons fairly easier, fairly quicker. We're not going to see a whole lot right now. Just again, clearing of waves, grabbing the blue buff here for Bjergsen. Yellow Star clearing out some vision. Baron is up in 20 seconds, and it's already being contested. You can see the vision around the Baron pit. These teams, TSM do have a fairly decent Baron take. They're very tanky, and Doublelift has quite a lot of damage already. So they could try to take this Baron down very early, fairly quickly if they want to, and they do make their way into the Baron pit just to set up that vision. TSM trying to get the neutral objectives covered. I'm not sure exactly what Balls was going for. Maybe he didn't get the second barrel thrown down. I'm not quite sure. Doublelift chunks down, puts some damage down onto high, and this is where the focus has to be for TSM in these fights. They've got to try to get the healing out now. Rush right now is going to get caught by Hanser, who's rotating from the bottom lane to the mid lane. Gets caught out in his jungle, and it's 3 members of TSM onto Rush. High and Jensen are just kind of off on the side. They can't really get to him, but Balls is coming up from the bottom lane as well. Rush does exactly what he needs to do. Eats all of the CC. He takes the knockup from Poppy. He takes the barrel from Gragas as well. The Gangplank ult does throw down, and it forces Doublelift away from this fight for the time being. Doublelift is forced off and can't get any damage onto Rush. Rush and High are the 2 nearest enemies to him, and he can't do any damage. Meanwhile, Jensen can easily get himself through to the back line. He still does have Destiny and Gate available, so he can easily get himself back over to defend Rush if he needs to. But again, Balls coming in from the bottom lane as well, going to be able to help him out. As this fight unfolds, Rush stays alive. TSM decide to focus onto Sneaky. Here, they throw down the Braum ultimate. Svenskeren flashes over the wall to get away. He can't path through here because he's just going to take so much damage, get so slowed by Balls and Rush. Hanser is stuck. He has flash, but he's stunned up by Jensen, and he's just taking too much damage from Balls and Rush to really be able to do anything. Sneaky gets focused down, so that's a good kill here for TSM. The disengage happens, but they can't. Jensen doesn't decide to dive to any of the backline members. He could have picked up Hanser if he wanted and got greedy. Decides not to, and TSM do end up picking up a kill. Double Lift picks up an amazing kill, throws down the trinket, and it ends up doing it so much damage thanks to his ulti and high being so low. So TSM pick up 2 off of the back of this fight. It starts with a catch onto Rush, but Rush already is tanky. Is so tanky, has so many stats, and also has the has that extra shield and the extra heal, A from high, but B from his items. So he's not going to go down very easily. And they turn everything onto Rush, not realizing just how much he can take. Bjergsen goes in onto high. High gets immediately pulled up. Tries to go back in onto Bjergsen, but misses, so he has to flash over the wall. Sneaky gets focused down, gets stunned again. Braum auto attack plus double lift autos equals dead champion. Fairly easily. Back in that fight, though, near the end, something that I do want to point out is that High threw down his where is that note? High throws down his E in a spot where it makes double lift not be able. It forces double lift away. It's a zoning. It's a zoning tool right now. It means that double lift can't walk into it because he's slow enough that he walks into it. He's just going to get rooted. Cloud9 will be able to back away. It forces him back this way. Now, what Cloud9 should have done is instead of retreating up this way, they should have just backed down through the river and come up through blue buff. That makes it so that double lift can't throw down any exploratory bioarcane barrages like he does to pick off High. Just a couple nitpicky things there that Cloud9 could have done, but otherwise, I mean, they're still ahead, but they have the fight that they want. They just can't follow up with any damage because of the way that it was scattered, the walls that were there. But TSM, again, blowing a whole lot of crowd control onto a very tanky Lee Sin. And he will not die. It's just going to be so hard for TSM to pick up Rush early on because they just don't have quite a lot of damage. Double Lift does pick up an early QSS, so he's going to be able to get himself out of any stuns, out of any silences or roots long enough that he can escape and survive. So again, it's the peel protect for Double Lift. It's not quite the heal him, speed him up, and let him go do his thing. It's peel away anybody who tries to dive, and then turn the fight when we can and let Bjergsen flank. If Double Lift has the time, as they said multiple times in the cast, if Double Lift has the time and chance to sit still and auto, TSM will win just about any fight. For Cloud9, they have to make Double Lift stay on the move and make sure that he doesn't have the time to stand still and auto attack, because if he does, I mean, he's just going to shred anybody and everybody that he hits. So 4-1 coming in from Cloud9 right now. I do like it because Balls has really outpressured Hanser entirely in this matchup, and he's 60 CS up. He's up a kill and 4 assists. Hanser only has the 1 death, so Balls is doing so much damage. Rush jumps in and takes the chain for Sneaky. Didn't need to. But good guy Rush going in, preventing any kind of CC or damage coming down. Now TSM are trying to take this turret. Cloud9 tries to engage, but the body slam was actually pretty nice. It stopped the resonating strike from Rush. They have to back away, but Svenskeren gets caught. And will take quite a bit of damage. Rush goes in, tries to kick him back, but can't can't just yet. Yellow Star is able to throw down the Glacial Fissure just in time. Svenskeren, though, will get seen, and Jensen saves his gate, decides not to go for it, sees Bjergsen coming in. Bjergsen gets a huge chunk onto Sneaky, but immediately gets stunned up by the gold card. They follow that up, and Sneaky throws down a Q, picks up Bjergsen. There's the first kill for Cloud9 here. Now, Doublelift gets the time to stand still and auto, but because he's standing still, he does pick up Sneaky, but he stays in the in High's E area, which freezes him and roots him and allows Rush to disengage that fight. 1-for-1 here, and Cloud9 back away, but they kind of have to. TSM could push that up if they wanted to, but they decide not to, and that's the danger of this Kog'Maw. He's already 4-1, just providing so much damage and so much pressure because he's getting some good peel from his teammates. They're really doing a great job to prevent Cloud9 from diving onto the backline, which is what they want to do in these team fights. Again, we see that replay. Sven gets very low. Rush tries to greed for him, but can't do it. Can't get him right now. Sneaky High gets the nice double knockup and gets a quick heal and wish to keep him alive for now. But Doublelift finds him, knocks him out with a Bioarcane Barrage and a couple autos, and just ends up turning the fight there for TSM and forces Cloud9 away. TSM pick up their first dragon now. So that's going to help out Doublelift even more. That 6% bonus AD and AP will really does make that Kog'Maw very strong, and that's a little butterfly that can. And now here's the fight. Rush engages after the Cannon Barrage slows down 3 members of TSM. Bjergsen, is off onto the side. The teleport comes in from Hanser, and at first you think this is bad, but what happens is High uses his the AoE silence and root to stop Hanser. Doesn't save it for Doublelift, so that cooldown is now it's down, and it's down for, I believe it's at this time it's probably about 10 seconds or so. Doublelift pops his E and immediately can go to work. Svenskeren hits a nice cask to force Rush away, and again, Doublelift doing what he can to just work. Picks up the double, he gets some slows down, Hanser jumps in onto High and will pick that up. And it's a 3-for-0 for TSM. They're down in gold, but with the jungler and 80 carry down who can steal the Baron away fairly easily, they immediately turn towards Baron. It's a great pickup here for TSM. Yellow Star tries to hang around to see if anyone's coming up the river. Bjergsen solos out balls fairly easily, and it's a free Baron for TSM. And it turns what was a struggle of a game. Now Doublelift is 6-1 with a finished Mercurial Scimitar and is just doing work. Hanser finally makes something happen, and that's what this kid is good at. He's very solid, and he knows that even if he's behind, he still can provide a lot of utility and help for his team. Rush dives into the Svenskeren. The teleport comes in from Hanser, and Yellow Star is taking up so much damage. Again, High not saving the E, throws it down. Rush misses the Sonic Wave. Hanser gets rooted, but this cask separates everything and really pushes the fight for TSM. It disengages and resets the fight. Bjergsen is trying to go in on the Sneaky, but a little bit of mistime or miscommunication doesn't allow him to, so he backs away, instead focusing now on the Rush. Throws down the chain. Doublelift picks up that first kill. Now, Hanser has his ultimate wound up, and it forces Cloud9 to back away while TSM goes forward. Bjergsen chunks out Sneaky. Doublelift picks him up with the ultimate, And it's a very nice 3-kill pickup for TSM, getting themselves back into the game. They were down quite a bit in CS, but thanks to that the quote-unquote Baron power play, they are really able to get themselves back into the game. They push down the mid turret, but then immediately use the vision that they've gathered so far, and Hanser gets the tier 1 up in top. They clear out some more vision here in the top lane, and they zone away Cloud9 from their own turret by coming in through this extra entrance. They zone away Cloud9 from being able to do anything, and that is a smart play because it allows Bjergsen and Hanser to really dish out some damage. Rush tries to go in, but immediately gets focused down again, eating all of the CC. This is going to come up huge later on in this game. He eats almost all of the CC from TSM. They stun him. They knock him up. They focus down on a Rush, but he just will not die. Hanser boots away Rush and Sneaky. That allows double lift time on the top side to put down more hurt on this turret, and they get it to about half. They get it halfway. I actually really like that ultimate because it forces Cloud9 to rethink, and it resets Sneaky and Rush. It's getting hit by a Poppy ultimate right now is a very jarring experience because all of a sudden you're flying away and you can't do anything about it, and it jars you mentally because now you're like, okay, I've got to get myself back into the fight, but I don't know where I am. And so it allows, again, Double Lift more time to just whittle away and spit away at this turret. They do end up picking it up. Thanks to this minion wave and the Baron buff. Bjergsen picks up high. Sven hits a nice cask and splits up the fight, resets the fight, and it knocks Sneaky away. TSM focused out onto Sneaky. He can't get away. Does get the kill. Does get killed now. Svenskeren, because of that, is going to be the single target focus right now for Cloud9, so they pick him off. Hanser gets knocked back, and TSM look like they're well on their way to winning this game after a couple clutch team fight wins. They stayed to whittle away at this Nexus turret. I'm not a fan of this play, specifically because because you still have members of Cloud9 who are available to come in and dish out quite a lot of damage. If Rush wanted to follow through, he could possibly have picked up Bjergsen, but decides against it. Now, here's, a very greedy, interesting play. Jensen sees Yellow Star alone in the jungle. Now, he still has vision over both Bjergsen and Double Lift, but home guards are in effect now. He doesn't see that they're coming up to him. Double Lift and Bjergsen both ping that they're on the way. Yellow Star doing everything that he can to try to survive. He throws down the Unbreakable and throws down his own shields. But here's what happens. Double Lift slows up Rush, which allows Bjergsen to dive in and get the chain. Rush gets stunned up, has his GA that he just bought immediately popped, and he's going to end up going down again. He tries to get away. Bjergsen picks up that kill. Greedy play. You trade your jungler for the support. And the jungler loses his Guardian Angel that he just bought. And because he loses it, it becomes very cost inefficient. The MR that it gains, the MR and armor that it gives is just not enough. You're buying a Guardian Angel for the passive, for that regeneration, but Rush and Jensen just getting too greedy to try to force something to happen, and that allows TSM to again pick up another few turrets and continue to grow their gold lead and play this 1-3-1 4-1 split push game that they've been doing quite effectively. Now, Yellow Star is far away, so this is, but it doesn't matter at this point. TSM still pick up this turret. They pick up 3 turrets very quickly, and all of a sudden, TSM are now, or C9 are now fighting in their own base. TSM look to have this game wrapped up. They're 5,000 gold ahead, 31 minutes in. They've got kills on the carries that they need to have them on. Bjergsen is getting himself ahead. picks up the death cap here, 31 minutes in, has the Void Staff, the Morello already. Double Lift has a Frozen Mallet, and it's a very interesting pickup right now. I'm really of two minds about it. Because of the attack speed on Kog'Maw, it can provide him a lot of slowing potential, and because the Runon's Hurricane's bolts do apply on hit effects, can provide a lot of AoE slows, especially if the bolts target champions, which just continues to allow him to rain down the damage. And it provides a bit of health, not as much not as much as you would think, but it provides just enough that he can still try to survive. But he's not going to get the revitalized shields from, and I totally lost the name. It's the new item, builds out of Jarum's Fist. But anyway, so he's not going to get the health increase and the shield increase from that. So it's a trade off. You're going for that AoE slow, and it can work for Kog'Maw if you have the right positioning. And we know that Double Lift doesn't always have the right positioning. He's very aggressive and gets in the front line of his team very easily, even with a Kog'Maw who has the longest or the second longest extended attack range once he has his E procced. So it's a health item as much as it is trying to get greedy and get the slow so he can continue to deal the damage. They're really, right now, they're playing the map game pretty well. You've got supers in the top lane, but they're not really that far up. They're not providing any kind of pressure. TSM are working just with the minion wave they have right at this point, and they just don't have the timing. Honestly, my thought process is let the minions crash into the wave, maybe get a couple hits on the turret, but back away. Use the mid lane minions that you have now and push up with those they're coming up. They decide to stay with these bot lane minions, which again, playing the map game pretty well. It is allowing the top lane minions, the top lane supers to try to push. But Cloud9 tries to force this fight. Svenskeren knocks back a couple. Sneaky gets booted back. Jensen will go down because he tries to greed onto Double Lift. Destiny gates himself in, but can't pick up Double Lift. Bjergsen dives in, but gets chunked out. But we can see the damage that Double Lift is doing, thanks to the E active, and thanks to that Frozen Mallet being able to slow down and keep the enemies in his attack range. Now, this wave is when they should have been working and should have been pushing it, because now your super minions are at the inhibitor turret, and this will force them to either give up that bottom turret or potentially give up a Nexus turret to try to defend it. TSM just getting a bit too aggressive, a bit too early, and they do eat out a couple ultimates. They do eat out a couple of summoner spells, but they don't get anything else aside from it. They get damage onto this bot lane turret, and that's about it. They really needed to be waiting to use their super minions effectively. The super minions can't even get onto the Nexus turret now, and Balls and Rush will be able to clear them away fairly easily, and the mid lane minions as well getting cleared away very easily by Sneaky. Dragon is up in 30 seconds, so TSM, they know that they need Dragon. They need Baron, they need that Baron buff to try to siege and potentially take the victory. That's what they're looking for. Take the Baron buff and siege and win. That's what they want. Allow Bjergsen to try to sneak around in the backside to pick up the kill, to pick up a potential kill or two, but siege. Go in as 5 with the Baron buff and win. Push down the mid lane turret, push down the bottom lane turret, but they're doing a decent job of getting vision. They're clearing away vision in C9's top jungle, but Cloud9 are they're biding. They're biding their time. They're trying to survive. They know that they're still in it. They're not down. They're not out by a long shot. Bit of miscommunication there from TSM. They start the Baron, but the rest of the team aren't around. Rush will end up getting caught out and will die. And that is huge because now they can't really contest Baron very easily. And the supers are now at the inhibitor up on the top lane. Destiny comes out even to see what they already know, pretty much. Now, Balls tries to get a chain going. Haunter knocks it away, which is pretty smart here early on. High throws down his E, but can't really get anybody. Now, here's the fight. Balls has to flash away because he's caught by 4 members of TSM, and they're slowed by the Glacial Fissure from Yellow Star. Very nice play. They try to focus on the Jensen, but there's a huge crit from a barrel from Balls, and it's going to start turning this fight around. High stays alive. They focus on the Sneaky and not High. Yes, traditionally you want to focus the damage dealer, not the support, but when the support is a Soraka, you need to focus the support. Otherwise, Soraka's going to do what she's doing right now, keeping her team alive long enough that Balls can chain more barrels and pick up Svenskeren. Now, Double Lift will pick up quite a few kills here. He picks up one onto Soraka, almost picks the one up onto Jensen, and Balls nearly goes down. They do lose. C9 does lose the top inhibitor, and they will lose. I remember the top Nexus turret, but it's a fight that TSM win. But again, C9 just keeping themselves alive, and they delay the Baron. Again, miscommunication from TSM in who they're focusing. If they focus out High, so in that last fight, they focus out High, he cannot heal Sneaky. Once High dies, Sneaky's next on the list. Sneaky will go down. Jensen will end up following suit as well, and TSM could quite possibly pick up the win off of that. But they don't. They don't focus the Soraka, who can't very well heal herself. Yes, she has a star call, but it's not going to be enough against 4 members of TSM, especially the Double Lift and Bjergsen right now, who are humongous. Again, a misplay from TSM that could have won them the game, or at least helped them pick up the Baron. They do, again, playing the Baron bait game, trying to clear out vision, and trying to make Cloud9 come to them because they know that they're far ahead. But Cloud9 playing smart, playing defensively, and doing what they need to do to try to pick up, try to stay in this game. They know that they can win fights. They're going even in most of these fights because of the miscommunication and the misfocus from TSM. They will end up picking up this mid turret, or they pick up a good chunk of it. Double Lift gets caught in the middle of the cannon barrage, but he does have Blade of the Rune King, so he's going to be able to heal himself up fairly quickly. Hasn't even used his summoner heal. Yellow Star throws out a very decent Glacial Fissure. It throws down onto the carries of C9 and Sneaky and Jensen. But High, Rush, and Balls are unfazed, and that's going to allow Sneaky will stay alive. Here comes Jensen on the backside. So much happening. We'll go back. So Sneaky gets focused out by Bjergsen. The wish keeps him alive, and he keeps going. He gets a couple more shields. Now, Bjergsen is off on his own, and this is not where you want to be in a team fight if you're a LeBlanc, because here comes Jensen on the backside in a brush that, yes, is warded by TSM, but Bjergsen gets his passive popped, and because he does, Rush boots him up, and Balls picks up the kill with the Q. Haunter will not get rooted, but again, this is Cloud9 knowing that they can survive. They will be able to clear away most of the minions, I believe. But this allows TSM, even as Ford, to continue to siege this mid lane turret. The barrels from Balls are huge. Catches Double Lift and catches Yellow Star, forces them away. Svenskeren has to back away but gets stunned up and tries to disengage the fight. Rush is tanking everything up. His GA does pop, but C9 are still fighting. Jensen is still alive. Rush gets focused and gets stunned up, but stays alive. Haunter's not really doing any damage. Sneaky forces Haunter away, and Cloud9 continue to survive. They're like cockroaches at this point. They just will not die. And a lot of that is in part to the team comp that they've built and the misfocus and misplay from TSM. TSM are not focusing down the right targets. You have to any game you're playing against that has a Soraka on the other team, you have to get the Soraka first. Otherwise, she's just going to heal and keep the rest of her team alive. And at that point, there is just nothing that you can do, because we just saw TSM have a 5v4 and nearly lose it. That is the power of the healing from Soraka. Just flat out. They force most of TSM away, and Cloud9 immediately head towards Baron. The fight just about happens, but here's a mid lane fight that is nearly going to happen. Yellowstar gets caught and gets chunked down a lot by the cannon barrage, but because of the cannon barrage and the placement from balls, Doublelift can't go in. He's stuck autoing minions on the backside. Now it keeps Yellowstar stays alive thanks to his flash, thanks to his stand behind me. But that was a fight that, had the cannon barrage not gone down in that place, TSM very well could have won it, because Doublelift was just free to auto in the backside, and Cloud9 were grouped up. Okay, so right now we're just gonna see Cloud9 wave clear, keep themselves alive, keep themselves going. They know that they're still in this game. You look at it; they're only 2,000 gold behind. At this point in the game, that gold values and the gold deficit is very irrelevant, because you're already at 5-6 items mostly. So at this point, it's really just about who can outplay who can play the fights better. And right now, Cloud9 is playing these fights better, because TSM, I'm going to harp on it all game, TSM cannot focus down the Soraka. And that's partially because Hai is positioning himself very well and staying away from the damage. He doesn't have to provide damage. That's not what you do as a Soraka. You don't need to do damage. You just stay back and you play medic. And that allows your carries to continue to do damage and stay alive in these fights. The TSM trying to get this mid inhibitor. Top inhibitor has respawned. They do end up getting the mid. Oh, no, they don't. Excuse me. That's right. The fight happens, and this is huge. Rush gets... Doublelift gets caught. Right here. Doublelift is silenced. He stays and autos the pink ward. He gets caught by the root. He's stuck. Cannon barrage goes down to slow him up even more. Rush throws out the sonic wave. It hits Yellowstar. Yellowstar goes for the glacial fissure. Rush flashes, insects Doublelift. Three members of TSM are knocked up. Doublelift is chunked, and you see these crit numbers. These are from Ball's barrel chains. They are getting chunked because of the AoE damage and the catch on Doublelift, and Rush knowing that he has to go in and engage, and knowing that's his job. Go in, engage, get Doublelift, and then the fight will go our way. Sneaky and Hai make their way around to Doublelift. Sneaky picks him up. Yellowstar goes down next, and so does Svenskeren. Hai will end up going down to the Acathian Surprise. Sneaky will end up dying as well. Bjergsen will stay alive for the time being, but does end up going down. Haunter makes a nice play to try to flash over. He does pick up Jensen, but Haunter himself will end up going down. It's an ace for Cloud9. TSM don't even get the inhibitor. Again, Cloud9 staying alive in this game. That's all they need to do at this point. They know they can win team fights. They focus down the targets properly. They're positioning very well. Balls' barrel chains have been amazing. Doublelift, again, getting caught and autoing a pink ward that has nothing to do in this fight. The fight just erupts. And it's happening all inside of the It's happening all inside of the cannon barrage. So that's just even more AoE damage and slow. Now, Rush and Balls are able to two-man Baron. Baron ends up on 4 members, I believe, of Cloud9. No, it just ends up on Rush and Balls, I believe. But that's 2 members of Cloud9 with Baron. Again, on somebody who can split push if they need to, although his teleport's not up, but it's very huge. Disregard that is not active on 5. Jensen and Sneaky do not have it. I do not believe High has it either. So Balls and Rush do have Baron buff, and that is a huge swing fight for Cloud9 because, again, it affirms to them that they can win. They can get the right team fights. They can catch double lift sleeping, and that's going to be their key. They want to catch this Kog'Maw sleeping because once he goes down, Bjergsen only has enough damage to maybe pick off one person. If double lift goes down, that's all the damage from TSM, and they are done for in these fights. TSM try to Fnatic brush and try to catch, but Cloud9 they're playing smart. They're playing defensively. Even though they have Baron on a couple members, they know that a lost team fight is game over. So they're not trying to force a fight. Now Rush, as I say that, they're pushing up with minions and they push up with no vision, whereas TSM have dragon area and that brush completely warded. A pink ward does go down, but it's a little too late. Rush gets caught. The fight separates, and here's a mistiming of ultimate. Svenskeren throws down the cask, and Yellowstar throws down the Glacial Fissure. The Glacial Fissure hits one person, and that Haunter gets it in him that I can go in on him. And he goes in on Balls. Meanwhile, Sneaky and Jensen are able to focus down Haunter. Rush eats so much CC, so much damage, stays alive, heals, wish. Double Lift can't stop him. Double Lift gets stunned up. He is able to QSS it away, but nobody on Cloud9 is dying. Rush does his job and eats up all of the crowd control. That's all you have to do is eat up the crowd control, make them use their engage and disengage and their crowd control on you, and let your team do the rest of the work. Again, misfocus. Haunter is going to end up going down to Sneaky. It's a 5v4, but Double Lift is putting out so much damage. Svenskeren and Double are low. Rush finds a Q on a Double Lift, finds a Q, goes in. Double Lift will end up going down. But the Acathian Surprise is going to do quite a bit of damage. Picks up the kill on Sneaky as Jensen is down. High Rush and Balls pick up Yellowstar, and Bjergsen is the only one alive at this point. Cloud9, they could try to go for this push, but they decide not to because Bjergsen's going to clear out these waves and try to make it so that Cloud9 doesn't have any minions to push with, but gets caught. Tries to go for Rush. Rush still has his GA, by the way. Keep that in mind. He goes after the clone. High goes after Bjergsen. Bjergsen will end up killing, or just about killing High. But High stays alive because of the star calls. And the shields from Rush and just doing everything that he can. He even McHale's himself to stay alive. Rush, meanwhile, Balls is in the mid lane, pushing down turrets with the mini wave, with the Baron buff. All of a sudden, Cloud9 is ahead. They pick up an inhibitor, but they don't have enough. Haunter's going to be up. Yellowstar's going to be up. Sven's going to be up. Again, Rush goes in to try to get a pink ward, and normally it's not a bad idea, but when you have no vision, Cloud9 literally... here we go. Cloud9 literally have one ward in TSM's jungle. Otherwise, I mean, they have Baron pretty much covered, and they have a ward here. If you don't see TSM anywhere, you don't want to face check this brush this way. That's just begging for disaster. What could have happened was Rush should have warded over this wall, thrown that pink ward down there. They'll see him. They could try to go over that wall, but that's a lot of gap. There's only really 1 or 2 gap closers, and Rush still, again, is tanky enough to survive that. But because he face checks now, this looks bad for Cloud9, as I said. But it's a mistiming of ultimates that is going to really spell out doom. If Yellowstar still had his Glacial Fissure, he could pop it right now on Rush. But he doesn't. He doesn't have it because he tries to use it after they're already split up. Hauntzer's going to get taken down because he dove into the backline with no backup. Bjergsen tries to go in on Jensen. Nice Zanyas to stay alive. Double kill for Sneaky. They chase down Sven and Yellowstar while Bjergsen's in the backline wreaking havoc. But it's, again, once Bjergsen goes through his spell rotation, he's out of damage. And so he can't really pick up anything else. And that leads to that chase. If Cloud9 didn't chase, they very well could. They might have been able to pick up more damage onto a Nexus turret, but they might not have been able to end the game. But Balls is able to at least pick up an inhibitor turret, pick up inner turret, and inhibitor. So really being able to turn these fights around, and they pick up a 6,000 gold lead. Now, again, we're at 6 items. Gold lead does not matter. These two teams, it's now just down to who team fights better, and Cloud9 is showing multiple times that they're able to team fight better because they layer their CC more effectively, and they layer it onto the targets that they need to, whereas TSM blows everything onto Rush, who is super tanky and has a Guardian Angel. You had to kill him twice, and that's just not going to happen with a Soraka. And Rush knows this. He's purposefully trying to bait out any kind of ability because he knows that they can't use it on his teammates, and he's playing this frontline tank to full effectiveness. TSM are trying to posture for this last ditch fight, but Haunter gets caught with a lot of CC. Again, it's a questionable call to layer it onto Haunter, who is very tanky as a Poppy, but they're able to. Haunter dives in onto Balls, and Svenskeren is right there behind him. This cannon barrage may not look like much at this time, but again, it's doing so much to zone away the carries. Bjergsen and Doublelift are out of the fight right now, and that's going to allow Jensen and Sneaky and Balls to just dish out as much damage as they possibly can. Haunter gets a nice 3-man knockup, but it's not enough. There's no backup because that cannon barrage is stopping anybody from trying to come in. Bjergsen gets chunked out, and Cloud9 playing that fight again just very well. Svenskeren tries to engage back in, but he's got no backup. He's got no other takes, and TSM they are immediately just wiped out. What happens here is Jensen's on the backside, Bjergsen's on the backside trying to get the flank. Doublelift can't sit and auto because he's gonna get hit. He's gonna get hit with something from somebody. He's able to sit and auto a couple times, but he autos onto High, who gets picked up by Balls. Or by Sneaky, excuse me. Balls has a barrel here, and you'll see that's going to do quite a bit of damage. He flashes in onto Doublelift and throws down a couple autos. Yellowstar gets caught up, and meanwhile, here on the backside, Jensen, watch Jensen. He stops, he turns, he gold cards Bjergsen, he red cards Bjergsen, and immediately picks him up with the wild cards. Just wipes him out, and TSM just get too greedy for fights and that they don't need to take, especially when you're down 5v4. These team fights from Cloud9 were played out very well. They knew that all they had to do. They knew that their main target was take down Doublelift and put that crowd control onto him. And then if Bjergsen comes around the side, you position or crowd control him if you can. High did such a great job of staying out of the fights and just healing. Heal, wish, heal. Then he throws down he throws down the E and gets the AoE root and silence on multiple members multiple times. Double lift gets caught with it so many times he can't flash out of the fights, or he can't flash out of it because he's silenced, and he's so slow as a Kog'Maw he doesn't have a whole lot of movement speed. He gets caught by it a lot, and because he gets hit by that, can't flash away, Balls is able to barrel chain these fights out a lot. Jensen is able to gold card when he needs to. Sneaky runs rampant in a lot of these fights, and it comes down to TSM not playing the team fights correctly. They did a great job early mid game. They went to the 1-3-1 very early. They got the turret controls that they wanted with the 1-3-1. With the 4-1s, with the rotations, and they pick up the Barons, they pick up the early fights, and they get this early lead. But I don't think they get over aggressive, they get overconfident, but they force so much onto Rush. He is so tanky, they can't kill him. Excuse me. They use the explosive cask and they use the glacial fissure so much at missed opportunities. Those are not abilities that need to be used together, because the explosive cask is going to force everybody away, and when everybody's forced away, Yellow Star can't knock everybody up and slow everybody together. They're all away from it. So at this point, it's just the zoning slow. But when everybody's knocked away already, they don't need to get onto anybody. It was just very, very oddly misplayed from TSM. And credit to Cloud9. They played everything exactly how they needed to. They stayed in the game. They never gave up. They forced TSM to take these fights. I will say face checking a brush when you can't see anybody on the other team is not a good idea. But the person who did it was so tanky and had so much support behind him that no matter what happened, he was not going to die. He died 4 times, but it took so much effort from TSM to take him down that everything they used on him, they couldn't use on Sneaky. They couldn't use on Balls. And Balls went 9-1-11. Sneaky was 8-6-11. So, Sneaky got caught a few times, but 9-1-11 from Balls. That should have been, they should have tried to take down High. But High can get picked up by Sneaky, can get healed, can get, the Summoner healed, can throw down the Star Call to try to get heals. But anytime that TSM tried to focus onto one target, instant heals. Or they focus onto the wrong target, they focus onto the tank, and High saves his heals and saves everything for when they then try to turn onto somebody else, but they stay alive. So, C9 played this game very well. They stayed alive. TSM did everything they could early and mid to get the advantage and to get a late scaling comp ahead very early. The problem is you've got 2 late scaling comps, and when the other team plays the fights more effectively and stays in the game, then it's going to be a major problem because they're going to be just as strong as you are, and there was just not enough damage on the side of TSM. There just really wasn't. They try to go with that's one of the downfalls about these protect the 80 carries or the jugger compositions, is that there's just not enough damage. Bjergsen has some AoE damage, but it's not a whole lot. Double lift, they fed so many resources into him, but he died when it really mattered, and that was the issue. Was he either died or was zoned away from the fight and couldn't get the damage down, and when you lose your 2 sources of damage, you're not going to win. plain and simple. So very well played from Cloud9. They stayed away, they stayed ahead, or they stayed alive, and they didn't give up. Played their composition how they needed to, and TSM, despite getting ahead, they fall behind because they just can't focus properly on these fights. So victory for Cloud9. It moves them ahead. It ties up their series with TSM 1-1. So if they do end up tying, there's going to be some kind of tiebreak game between them because they tied the series 1-1. TSM, it was just a struggle for them. They did what they could and they played the game very well, but don't hang your heads too low. You did a great job. Cloud9 just outplayed you in these fights, and it was really amazing to see. So congratulations to Cloud9, and TSM, they did what they could, and they're still in the hunt for top for playoffs and for top 2 to try to get a bye here into the NALCS playoffs for the spring split. But Cloud9, congratulations, very well done.